Hey guys, Thetcglover here, how you doing today? So let's take a look at my take on the Hero Strike structure. Now this is obviously that you've cracked open 3 of these structure decks and that you're now looking at 120 main deck cards going, oh, I need to make a deck out of this, how am I going to do that? And you're kind of stricken of how you're going to do it. This is going to help you kind of take an understanding of what to do, and of course some of these cards would not fit into the actual hero deck, the polished hero deck where you have Master Hero Acid, Absolute Zero, and all these other things like MST, all this, Raigeki, all that stuff. It goes in the deck, but if you don't if it doesn't come in the actual structure deck itself. So if you pick up 3 of these structure decks and you just want to build a deck out of them without adding anything else in, then you can do that, and actually the finished product is pretty solid, and I like it a lot. So let's take a look at what I did, and then of course if you feel like you can dispute some of these choices, then feel free to comment down below and like to hear your thoughts on it. So I put in 1 alias because it was just filling up space, to be honest, but of course this is a 1900, it's pretty solid, and it is a warrior and it's a light, so it fits in with pretty much everything we need. But of course I feel like Voltic is better because you can use it with Miracle Fusion, which will be at 3 in this deck. Voltic has more spots dedicated to it in this deck than alias, so that's it really. So we got the free Shadow Mist, and now the free Shadow Mist, of course, we know to be one of the most, that's probably the most important card for heroes in a very long time, ever since Stratus got announced, which was God knows how many years ago. So Shadow Mist is the first, second, and third card of the deck. No matter what you do, Shadow Mist always has to be at 3 because you constantly need Shadow Mist to do everything you need to do. Everything else is just kind of variating between different ratios and numbers, but Shadow Mist will always be played at 3. You will never ever take a third one out. We got 2 Summon the Monk, which is really great that Konami included this in the structure deck because it means that we can now do certain plays. Summon the Monk into Shadow Mist, when then Shadow Mist goes and gets asked Mask Change, is a really solid first turn play, and I really like it. So it's really great that Summon the Monk was included, and I would definitely say to max out on as many Summon the Monks as possible. Of course, in the finished product, you would have Goblinberg in there as well, because you can search that with Rota. Of course, Rota does not come in the deck, and Goblinberg does not either, so you would include those, but of course, for now, we can compromise and have just 2 Summoner Monks on their own, and not have a third pseudo Summoner Monk in the form of Goblinberg, which helps us do some really, when we have a full monster hand, we want to use Goblinberg rather than Summoner Monk, because sometimes Summoner Monk runs out of targets, while Goblinberg has all of them in the hand, so, it depends on what we do. Bubble Man in this particular variant of the deck is not as important, but I would still run 2 because it still kind of gets us places. Now and again, you do get the 2 draws off. If you are whittled down to nothing, you top deck equals, search for Bubble Man, draw 2 cards, and then you start making plays. But as you flesh out the deck beyond the structure deck, I would say to make more use of Bubble Man by just filling out the extra deck with rank 4s, and also getting Acid and Absolute Zero, because Bubble Man's importance in this deck actually goes up a hell of a lot when you start including other cards outside of the structure deck. I put a Grand Mole in for good measure, but this is definitely one of the later cards I added in. I didn't really feel it was that important, but now and again it can put in some decent work. If you do some random fusion-y stuff, call the Haunted shenanigans, and then you just bring in the Grand Mole, take out a really annoying pesky monster, and then you just go in and swing in for damage, and you can Mask Change and do some pretty sick OTKs that way. So Grand Mole allows things like Voltic to pass through and get its effect off and stuff like that, and Grand Mole obviously counts towards an Earth, so you can use it with certain other cards, so it's really good. As for the spells, we're going to have 3 equals. If you're playing the finished product, I would say that you would be running Rota because of Goblinberg. Other than that, equal has no purpose. Rota gets everything that you need. Of course, Voltic is a Thunder, Bubble Man and Shadow Mist and Alias are all warriors, but most of the time, you want to get Voltic as well as having Goblinberg. I don't know, it depends on what you want. I mean, depends on how you play the deck really, but I feel like Rota is better, but it's up for debate, I guess. But Equal is a pretty solid substitution. It's great that we can run 3 of them. Hero Levs are the 4th, 5th, and 6th cards of the deck. You don't take these out because they're incredibly important in how the deck functions. It goes and gets you a straight up Shadow Mist, which means you can go and get a first turn Dark Claw, which is probably one of the best plays in the game right now. It sets up a Macrocosmos one-sided, and it also prevents your opponent from setting up. So against stuff like Necros, setting up that first turn Dark Claw is worth the 4,000 life points. So I would definitely make sure to include 3 hero lives. And I was really worried that they would take this out and it would make the card go up in price a lot, but it didn't, so it's really great. Now, one card that you wouldn't have in the finished product of an actual competitive hero deck, but you would have it in this one, is Righteous Justice. So if you have the MSTs, then you would probably put them instead of this and run 3 MST, maybe some Night Beams and stuff like that, depending on your meta. But Righteous Justice is a pretty solid filler card. It obviously means that you can't really do anything about your opponent's back row if they have Warning, because Righteous Justice needs you to have Elemental Heroes on the field. But you know, as a filler card, it's pretty solid, and now and again you do get to have 2 heroes on the field at once, and you can Righteous Justice and hit 2 back row, and then they're like, oh my god, are you serious? So it does happen, and then when it does, you feel pretty glad you had it in over an MST. We have 3 Miracle Fusion to fill up the space, and of course, every time you can go into certain things like Contrast, Hero, Chaos, and certain things. So you may see it quite dead, but I feel like as you include more cards over time, Miracle Fusion's importance goes up, and it's a pretty good finisher, and it lets you do some random combos, make them bait out back row, and then you finish up a Miracle Fusion and then you lose, so it's really great. I put in 2 Hero Masks because you can select an Elemental Hero you control, or any face that wants you control, and then you can send an Elemental Hero from your deck to the graveyard, and then that target's name becomes the sent monster's name. So what you do with this is that you send Shadow Mist, and then you get to search for a free Elemental Hero to your hand, so it basically forms as a 4th and 5th equal in this case, so it's more search power, and it also sets you up for things like Warrior Turning Alive, Mask Charge, and a few other things like Call the Haunted and stuff like that. So Hero Mask in this particular variant is pretty solid, and as I said, we have 2 Mask Charge, because 1 and 2 is fine, but don't run 3 because you'll start to see it too often when you don't have the targets for it. Warrior Turning Alive, you can go and get things like Bubble Man, you can go and get Shadow Mist, you can go and get a whole lot of things, you know, it's pretty good, and obviously you can return certain cards from that was in your extra deck back in if you need to, but of course if you run 3 of every single one, then you don't have to worry too much. So Warrior Returning Alive can be taken out, or you can just pitch it for Summon a Monk, pretty easy. Then we've got 2 Polar Duality. Now, of course, I have these in here because it's filler, but most of the time, you know, sometimes the deck struggles to get going, sometimes, you know, you just don't really get there enough, and then you can use Polar Duality, and of course it works in conjunction with Hero Mask because you won't be special summoning that turn. So Hero Mask allows you to kind of do some search power and use Polar Duality at the same time, so it kind of gets you there a little bit faster, but at the expense of giving up a free Dark Law or anything like that, or Summon a Monk play. So running it at 3 is not advised, but running it at 2 is okay, and it's usually a decent first turn play if your hand's pretty crap, you know. So it's great. So we've got the free Marsh Change, which is compulsory, of course. It lets you get into all of your really, really cool stuff like Dark Claw, which is by far the best card in the deck. We've got Form Change, which I put 1 in here because it allows you to reach cards like Kamikaze, which I believe is called Divine Wind. And you can go and get Goka and stuff like that. So it helps you kind of get to cards that you wouldn't normally be able to use, because Koga and Divine Wind are pretty solid cards, to be fair. In our trap lineup, I put 2 Battle Guard Howling, I put a Bottomless Trap Pole. The Battle Guard Howling is mainly just filler, but the card itself isn't too bad. Compulsory Evacuation Device, and of course the compulsory free Call the Haunted, because it allows us to really utilize stuff like Shadow Mist, Summon a Monk, and allows us to get back certain other cards as well. So it's a pretty solid card, and you know, you can even reuse stuff like Grand Mole that's been sent to the graveyard and stuff like that and put it back in the hand. So Call the Haunted is pretty solid, and I feel this is it, and obviously the rest of the extra deck is going to be free of each one. So this is my take on it, and I feel like there's a lot of work that could be done. There's a few extra cards that could be put in. You know, if you want to go into the Neos Alias variant where you run Hero Signal, Hero Blast, you could run those kind of things instead and go that route. Of course, the deck doesn't come with any Gemini Sparks, so it's not really Gemini beat as much as it could be. You can go that route if you wish, because it allows you to use Koga in a much more consistent sense. But I thought this is probably one of the better variants I can come up with. I feel like some of these choices are pretty solid, and it's up to you basically to try this. Just pick up 3 structure decks, crack them open, and just try to build the best that you can with the 120 cards that you have in your arsenal. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I'd like to hear your comments down below regarding this stuff. So until next time, the Thetcglover is out.